Imagine stepping into a room filled with troubled boys, each carrying their own burdens, and knowing you have the power to change their lives. I was a therapist in a juvenile facility, a place many viewed as rough, but for me, it was home. I loved those kids. They were broken, yes, but also full of potential. My coworkers, they couldn't understand. To them, therapy was a waste of time. Even the management saw us therapists as unnecessary. Things took a major turn when I found the courage to speak up. I made a sexual harassment complaint against a man who worked there, not realizing he was tied to the guy who ran the whole facility. From that moment, I became public enemy number one. The atmosphere turned cold. During the pandemic, isolation made my job even harder. The kids needed someone who cared, someone they could trust, but whispers filled the halls. My coworkers tried to make my life miserable. I fought back with silence, knowing that eventually the truth would unfold. I had to survive. I pushed through, hiding my anger while focusing on my boys. As June ended and July began, the inevitable approached. Many of my boys would soon leave the program. I planned to stay until the end of July, allowing time to connect the remaining boys with new therapists, leaving the team better prepared. I told the head therapist my plan. She smiled, grateful for my kindness. But just days later, I was called into the office. "We accepted your resignation," they said. They seemed surprised when I smiled. Peace washed over me. Their plan backfired. I wouldn't be leaving on their terms. I couldn't say goodbye to my boys, packed up without warning. I felt a swell of satisfaction. Silence would be my revenge. I had an advantage they didn't know about. Our IT guy struggled at his job, failing to create proper files for us therapists to share information. I saved everything on my personal computer instead. They needed my password to access it, and I had never given it. I smirked, knowing I could truly leave my mark. A month later, I met with some therapists for lunch. As we exchanged pleasantries, they filled me in on the chaos that followed my departure. The head of therapists had taken over my caseload and quit after only 3 months. The stress of rewriting my paperwork piled on her, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of twisted joy. "You've left quite a mess," one colleague joked. "Just a little hiccup in the system," I replied with a grin. One by one, the remaining therapists began to leave. Only one remained, the one everyone knew as incompetent. They scrambled to replace staff quickly, even rehiring a previous therapist who had left under rocky circumstances. The kids hated her. She had been cruel to me during my time, so I couldn't resist a chance at vengeance. While scrolling through social media, I noticed her husband flirting with me. I played along, letting it go for a while. Then, I took screenshots of our conversations and sent them to her. I savored the thought of what might unfold, as uncertainty loomed above their relationship. The facility soon became a shell of what it used to be. Rumors spread about the therapy department losing funding. Kids were angry and frustrated, many left without proper support. It made me smile, a bittersweet feeling as I recalled my own troubles there. They never understood the importance of what we did. I finally settled into a new job away from the chaos. Each child I had worked with lingered in my mind. They taught me resilience, and I was thankful for that. Warm days turned into chilly nights, yet I felt lighter. Occasionally, I'd bump into someone from the juvenile facility. They'd ask how I was doing. "Living my best life," I would respond with a chuckle, knowing I had escaped. But part of me missed those kids, the connection we had. I remembered the late-night talks, the joys of seeing them smile. I hoped someone was looking out for them. I often thought of the one boy who wore a spiked bracelet, the tattooed kid who struggled with anger but had a heart of gold. He would sit quietly in therapy, expressing his feelings through art. I wondered if he was okay. Days turned into weeks and then months. Autumn leaves fell outside my window, but life continued. The world was changing again. News reports told of a significant increase in juvenile delinquency rates, suggesting many facilities would struggle to cope. Somber thoughts hovered over me as I remembered the kids trapped inside those walls. A year later, I had an idea. I wanted to help them from afar. I contacted a local community center offering to run art therapy classes for kids in need. It wasn't a juvenile facility, but I knew I could make a difference. I recalled how art had helped many of my boys communicate. The center was thrilled at my offer. I gathered supplies, eager to get started. As I walked into the brightly colored room, memories flooded back. I could hear their laughter, their struggles, and their triumphs. I set up the materials and waited for the kids to arrive. One by one, they trickled in. Their faces reflected a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. I stepped forward, my heart racing a little. "Hey everyone, I'm here to help you express yourselves through art." I smiled, trying to ease their nerves. As I spoke, their eyes brightened. They were willing to take part. Our first session began. I guided them through the basics, and soon their hands were busy creating. They drew, painted, and shared their thoughts. I saw their pain spilled onto the canvas, each stroke a release, just as I had once seen in the juvenile facility. Weeks turned into months, and these sessions became a safe haven for many kids. Slowly, they opened up, forging friendships and sharing stories. Among them was a boy with a similar spiked bracelet, a reminder of the past. He too found solace in the art, revealing a vulnerable side that emerged through his charcoal sketches. I learned more about their lives, their dreams, and their fears. I celebrated their successes, no matter how small. And as the seasons changed from one to the next, I saw growth in each of them. They were not just kids. They were resilient, fiercely imaginative, and full of potential. One day, after a particularly successful session, I packed up the supplies. I glanced back at the remaining art on the walls. Each piece told a story, weaving tales of struggle, hope, and friendship. I realized something profound. Silence can indeed be a weapon, but it can also be a force for healing. I found my peace in this newfound purpose. Rather than seeking vengeance on the past, I'd taken the pain and transformed it into something valuable. The boys I once cared for had their futures ahead of them. Though my journey had been fraught with challenges, I emerged on the other side, ready to make an impact. Maybe silence was the best vengeance after all. I had chosen to remain quiet when they tried to silence me, yet I found my voice again in these art classes. I may have walked away from that toxic place, but I stepped into a world filled with light, laughter, and young artists who inspired me every day. Silencing the negativity became the bridge that led me back to my passion. In the end, it was not about revenge. Instead, it was about building a future, nurturing lost souls, and creating a community where those kids could thrive. They taught me about healing, resilience, and most importantly, finding a way to turn pain into art, one brush stroke at a time.